Warmest greetings to all my incredible subscribers and new viewers alike. Welcome, curious minds, to our video that explores the ins and outs of John Cassavetes. John Nicholas Cassavetes, December 9, 1929, February 3, 1989, was an American filmmaker and actor. He began as an actor in film and television before helping to pioneer modern American independent cinema as a writer and director, often self-financing, producing, and distributing his own films. He received nominations for 3 Academy Awards, 2 BAFTA Awards, 4 Golden Globe Awards, and an Emmy Award. After studying at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, Cassavetes started his career in television acting in numerous network dramas. From 1959 to 1960 he played the title role in the NBC detective series Johnny Staccato. He acted in notable films, such as Martin Ritt's film Noir Edge of the City 1957, Robert Aldrich's war film The Dirty Dozen 1967, Roman Polanski's horror film Rosemary's Baby 1968, and Elaine May's crime drama Mikey and Nicky 1976. For The Dirty Dozen, he earned a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. As a director, Cassavetes became known for a string of critically acclaimed independent dramas including Shadows 1959, Faces 1968, Husbands 1970, A Woman Under the Influence 1974, Opening Night 1977, and Love Streams 1984. His films employed an actor-centered approach which prioritized raw character relationships and small feelings while rejecting traditional Hollywood storytelling, method acting, and stylization. His films became associated with an improvisational aesthetic and a cineverite feel. He received Academy Award nominations for Best Original Screenplay Faces and Best Director A Woman Under the Influence. He frequently collaborated with American actress Gena Rowlands, to whom he was married from 1954 until his death in 1989, and friends Peter Falk, Ben Gazzara, and Seymour Castle. Many of his films were shot and edited in his and Rowlands' own Los Angeles home. He and Rowlands had a son named Nick and 2 daughters, named Alexandra and Zoe, all of whom followed them into acting and filmmaking. Let's now turn our attention to early life and education and uncover the fascinating insights it brings to the table. John Nicholas Cassavetes was born in New York City on December 9, 1929, the son of Greek-American actress Catherine Cassavetes Dimitriou, who was later featured in some of his films, and Greek immigrant Nicholas John Cassavetes. His early years were spent with his family in Greece. When he returned to New York at the age of 7, he spoke no English. He was then raised on Long Island, where he attended Paul D. Schreiber Senior High School, then known as Port Washington High School, from 1945 to 1947, and participated in Port Weekly, the school paper, Red Domino, Interclass Play, Football, and the Port Light Yearbook. Cassavetes attended Blair Academy in New Jersey and spent a semester at Champlain College in Burlington, Vermont, but was expelled due to his failing grades. He spent a few weeks hitchhiking to Florida and then transferred to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, encouraged by recently enrolled friends who told him the school was packed with girls. He graduated in 1950 and met his future wife Gena Rowlands at her audition to enter the academy in 1953. They were married 4 months later in 1954. He continued acting in the theater, took small parts in films, and began working on television in anthology series such as Alco Theater. As we venture forward, let's examine acting workshop in detail and gain a deeper appreciation for its significance. By 1956, Cassavetes had begun teaching an alternative to method acting in his own workshop co-founded with friend Burt Lane in New York City, in which performance would be based on character creation rather than backstory or narrative requirements. Cassavetes particularly scorned Lee Strasberg's method-based actors studio, and the Cassavetes Lane approach held that acting should be an expression of creative joy rather than the moody, broody anguish associated with Strasberg's teaching. Shortly after opening the workshop, Cassavetes was invited to audition at the Actors Studio, and he and Elaine devised a prank. They claimed to be performing a scene from a recent stage production but in fact improvised a performance on the spot, fooling an impressed Strasberg. Cassavetes then fabricated a story about his financial troubles, prompting Strasberg to offer him a full scholarship to the studio. Cassavetes immediately rejected it, feeling that Strasberg did not know anything about acting if he had been so easily fooled by the two ruses. An improvisation exercise in the workshop inspired the idea for his writing and directorial debut, Shadows 1959, first version 1957. Cassavetes raised the funds for the production from friends and family, as well as listeners to Gene Shepard's late-night radio talk show Night People. His stated purpose was to make a film about modest-income little people, unlike Hollywood studio productions, which focused on stories about wealthy people. Cassavetes was unable to gain American distribution of Shadows, but it won the Critics' Award at the Venice Film Festival. European distributors later released the movie in the United States as an import. Although the box office returns of Shadows in the United States were slight, it did gain attention from the Hollywood studios. As we transition, let's shed light on television and acting jobs and its relevance to our ongoing exploration. Cassavetes played bit parts in B pictures and in television serials, until gaining notoriety in 1955 as a vicious killer in The Night Holds Terror, and as a juvenile delinquent in the live TV drama Crime in the Streets. Cassavetes would repeat this performance credited as an introducing lead in the 1956 film version, which also included another future director, Mark Riddle, as his gangmate. His first starring role in a feature film was Edge of the City 1957, which co-starred Sidney Poitier. He was briefly under contract to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and co-starred with Robert Taylor in the western Saddle the Wind, written by Rod Serling. In the late years, Cassavetes guest-starred in Beverly Garland's groundbreaking crime drama, Deaky, about a New York City woman police undercover detective. Thereafter, he played Johnny Staccato, the title character in a television series about a jazz pianist who also worked as a private detective. In total, he directed 5 episodes of the series, which also features a guest appearance by his wife Jenna Rollins. It was broadcast on NBC between September 1959 and March 1960, and then acquired by ABC. Although critically acclaimed, the series was cancelled in September 1960. Cassavetes would appear on the NBC interview program, Here's Hollywood. Let's transition to Us and uncover its significance. In 1961, Cassavetes signed a 7-year deal with Paramount. Cassavetes directed 2 movies for Hollywood in the early years: To Late Blues 1961, A Child Is Waiting 1963 starring Burt Lancaster and Judy Garland. He starred in the CBS Western series Rawhide in the episode Incident Near Gloomy River 1961. In the season, he was cast in the ABC medical drama about psychiatry, Breaking Point. In 1964, he again co-starred with his wife, this time in an episode of the Alfred Hitchcock anthology program, and in 1965, he appeared on a Western series, The Legend of Jesse James. In the same year, he also guest-starred in the World War II series Combat. In the episode SIW, and as the insane nuclear scientist Everett Lang in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Season 2, episode The Peacemaker. With payment for his work on television, as well as a handful of film acting jobs, he was able to relocate to California and to make his subsequent films independent of any studio, as Shadows had been made. The films in which he acted with this intention include Don Siegel's The Killers 1964, the motorcycle gang movie Devil's Angels 1967, The Dirty Dozen 1967, for which he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, The Guywood House led originally intended for Robert Redford in Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby 1968, and The Fury 1978. Cassavetes portrayed the murderer in a 1972 episode of the TV crime series Columbo, titled Etude in Black. Cassavetes and series star Peter Falk had previously starred together in the 1969 mob action thriller Machine Gun McCain. The two later starred in Elaine May's film Mikey and Nicky 1976. Faces 1968 was the second film to be both directed and independently financed by Cassavetes. The film starred his wife Jenna Rowlands, whom he had married during his struggling actor days, Joan Marley, Seymour Castle and Vol Avery, as well as several first-time actors, such as lead actress Lynn Carlin and industry fringes like Vince Barbie. It depicts the slow disintegration of a contemporary marriage. The film reportedly took 3 years to make and was made largely in the Cassavetes home. Faces was nominated for 3 Academy Awards: Best Original Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Supporting Actress. Around this time, Cassavetes formed Faces International as a distribution company to handle all of his films. As we enter this new phase, let's navigate the complexities of ours and discover its practical applications. In 1970, Cassavetes directed and acted in Husbands, with actors Peter Falk and Ben Gazzara. They played a trio of married men on a spree in New York and London after the funeral of one of their best friends. Cassavetes stated that this was a personal film for him. His elder brother had died at the age of 30. Minnie and Moskowitz 1971, About Two Unlikely Lovers, featured Rowlands and Castle. A Woman Under the Influence 1974 stars Rowlands as an increasingly troubled housewife. Rowlands received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, while Cassavetes was nominated for Best Director. In The Killing of a Chinese Bookie 1976, Gazzara plays a small-time strip club owner with an out-of-control gambling habit, pressured by mobsters to commit a murder to pay off his debt. In Opening Night 1977, Rowlands plays the lead alongside Cassavetes. The film also stars Gazzara and Joan Blondell. Rowlands portrays an aging film star named Myrtle Gordon, who is working in the theater and suffering a personal crisis. Alone and unloved by her colleagues, afraid of aging and always removed from others due to her stardom, she succumbs to alcohol and hallucinations after witnessing a young fan accidentally die. Ultimately, Gordon fights through it all, delivering the performance of her life in a play. Rowlands won the Silver Bear for Best Actress at the 28th Berlin International Film Festival for her performance. With the groundwork laid, let's now examine hers and its connections to our previous discussions. Cassavetes directed the film Gloria 1980, featuring Rowlands as a mob mole who tries to protect an orphan boy whom the mob wants to kill, which earned her another Best Actress nomination. In 1982, Cassavetes starred in Paul Mazursky's Tempest, which co-starred Rowlands, Susan Sarandon, Molly Ringwald, Rael Julie and Vittorio Gassman. Cassavetes penned the stage play Knives, the earliest version of which he allowed to be published in the 1978 premiere issue of On Stage, the quarterly magazine of the American Community Theater Association, a division of the American Theater Association. The play was produced and directed as one of his 3 plays of love and hate at Hollywood, California's Center Theater in 1981. The trio of plays included versions of Canadian playwright Ted Allen's The Third Day Comes and Love Streams, the latter of which served as the blueprint for Cassavetes' 1984 film of the same name. Cassavetes made the Canon Films finance Love Streams 1984, which featured him as an aging playboy who suffers the overbearing affection of his recently divorced sister. It was entered into the 34th Berlin International Film Festival, where it won the Golden Bear. The film is often considered Cassavetes' last film in that it brought together many aspects of his previous films. He despised the film Big Trouble 1986, which he took over during filming from Andrew Bergman, who wrote the original screenplay. Cassavetes came to refer to the film as the aptly titled Big Trouble, since the studio vetoed many of his decisions for the film and eventually edited most of it in a way with which Cassavetes disagreed. In January 1987, Cassavetes was facing health problems, but he wrote the three-act play Woman of Mystery and brought it to the stage in May and June at the Court Theatre, Los Angeles. Cassavetes worked during the last year of his life to produce a last film that was to be titled She's Lovely. He was in talks with Sean Penn to star, though legal and financial hurdles proved insurmountable and the project was forgotten about until after Cassavetes' death, when his son Nick finally directed it as She's So Lovely 1997. In the following section, we'll be immersing ourselves in the captivating world of filmmaking style. Cassavetes spent the majority of his directing career working off the grid and in a communal atmosphere unfettered by the commercial concerns of Hollywood. His films aim to capture small feelings often repressed by Hollywood filmmaking, emphasizing intimate character examination and relationships rather than plot, backstory, or stylization. He often presented difficult characters whose behaviors were not easily understood, rejecting simplistic psychological or narrative explanations for their actions. Cassavetes also disregarded the impressionistic cinematography, linear editing, and star-centered scene-making fashionable in Hollywood and art films. Often unable to interest Hollywood studios in financing his work, Cassavetes typically worked with small but dedicated crew of friends and technicians. He said, "The hardest thing for a filmmaker, or a person like me, is to find people who really want to do something." Cassavetes worked to create a comfortable and informal environment where actors could freely experiment with their performances and go beyond acting clicks or programmed behaviors. He dismissed method acting as more a form of psychotherapy than of acting, which resulted in sentimental cliches and self-indulgent emotion. Instead, he held that acting should be an expression of creative joy and exuberance, with emphasis put on the character's creation of masks in the process of interacting with other people. Cassavetes also said that he strove to put in a position where they may make asses of themselves without feeling they're revealing things that will eventually be used against them. He frequently filmed scenes in long, uninterrupted takes, explaining that the drama of the scenes comes naturally from the real passage of time lived by the actors. The camera isn't content to just follow the characters' words and actions. I focus in on specific gestures and mannerisms. It's from focusing on these little things, moods, silences, pauses, or anxious moments that the form arises. Cassavetes also rejected the dominance of the director's singular vision, instead believing each character must be the actor's individual creation and refusing to explain the characters to his actors in any significant detail. He claimed that stylistic unity drains the humanity out of a text. The stories of many different and potentially inarticulate people are more interesting than a contrived narrative that exists only in one articulate man's imagination. The manner in which Cassavetes employed improvisation is frequently misunderstood. With the exception of the original version of Shadows, his films were tightly scripted. However, he allowed actors to interpret characters in their own way, and often rewrote scripts based on the results of rehearsals and performances. He explained that, "I believe in improvising on the basis of the written word and not on undisciplined creativity." Cassavetes worked with jazz musicians Charles Mingus and Shafi Hadi to provide the score for Shadows. Mingus's friend, Diane Dorinek, described Cassavetes' approach to filmmaking in jazz terms. The script formed the skeleton around which the actors might change or ad-lib lines according to their response to the situation at the moment, so that each performance was slightly different. A jazz musician works in this way, using a given musical skeleton and creating out of it, building a musical whole related to a particular moment by listening to and interacting with his fellow musicians. Jazz musicians working with actors could conceivably provide audiences with some of the most moving and alive theater they have ever experienced. When asked by Andrew South Luboth during the making of Faces whether he had the desire to make a musical film, Cassavetes responded he wanted to make only one musical, Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Cassavetes was passionate about a wide range of music, from jazz to classical to rock, saying, "I like all music. It makes you feel like living. Silence is death." Cassavetes worked with composer Bo Harwood from 1970 to 1984 on 6 films in several different capacities, even though Harwood had initially only signed on to do a little editing for Husbands, and a little sound editing for Minnie and Moskowitz. Harwood composed poignant music for Cassavetes' following 3 films, and was also credited as sound for 2 of them. During these projects Harwood wrote several songs, some with Cassavetes contributing lyrics and rudimentary tunes. During his work with Cassavetes, Harwood claimed the notoriously unpredictable director preferred to use the scratch-track version of his compositions, rather than to let Harwood refine and re-record them with an orchestra. Some of these scratch tracks were recorded in Cassavetes' office, with piano or guitar, as demos, and then eventually ended up in the final film. While this matched the raw, unpolished feel that marks most of Cassavetes' films, Harwood was sometimes surprised and embarrassed. The relationship between Harwood and Cassavetes ended amicably. When asked by documentarian Michael Ventura during the making of Cassavetes' last film Love Streams what he had learned from working with Cassavetes, Harwood replied, "I learned a lot through John. I've done a lot of editing for him. Picture editing, sound editing, music editing, shot sound, composed score, and I've learned a lot about integrity. I think you know what I mean. 30 years from now, I can say I rode with Billy the Kid." As we move forward, let's uncover the untold stories and fascinating intricacies of marriage. Cassavetes was married to American actress Gena Rowlands from 1954 until his death in 1989. Many of his films were shot and edited in his and Rowlands' own Los Angeles home. He and Rowlands had a son named Nick and 2 daughters named Alexandra and Zoe, all of whom followed them into acting and filmmaking. In the next segment, we'll be exploring death and its implications for our subject matter. A long-time alcoholic, Cassavetes died in Los Angeles from complications of cirrhosis at the age of 59 on February 3, 1989. He is buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles. At the time of his death, Cassavetes had amassed a collection of more than 40 unproduced screenplays, as well as a novel, Husbands. He also left 3 unproduced plays, Sweet Talk, Entrances and Exits, and Begin the Beguine, the last of which, in German translation, was co-produced by Nie Company of Belgium and Berg Theater of Vienna, and premiered on stage at Vienna's Akademie Theater in 2014. With that being said, let's now move on to legacy and reception. Cassavetes is the subject of several biographies. Cassavetes on Cassavetes is a collection of interviews collected or conducted by Boston University film scholar Ray Carney, in which the filmmaker recalled his experiences, influences, and outlook on the film industry. In the 2005 Hollywood issue of Vanity Fair, one article features a tribute to Cassavetes by 3 members of his stock company, Rowlands, Dotsara, and Falk. Many of Cassavetes' films are owned by Faces Distribution, a company overseen by Gena Rowlands and Julian Schlossberg, distributed by Juma Films, Schlossberg's own company, with additional sales and distribution by Janus Films. In September 2004, the Criterion Collection produced a Region 1 DVD box set of his 5 independent films, Shadows, Faces, A Woman Under the Influence, The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, and Opening Night. Also featured in the set is a documentary about the life and works of Cassavetes, A Constant Forge, a booklet featuring critical assessments of the director's work and tributes by old friends. Criterion released a Blu-ray version of the set in October 2013. In 2005, a box set of the same films was released in Region 2 by Optimum Releasing. The Optimum DVD of Shadows has a voice-over commentary by Seymour Castle. Then, in 2014, the Facesumer library became the property of Shout Factory, which acquired the film's holding parent company, Westchester Films. Cassavetes' son Nick followed in his father's footsteps as an actor and director, adapting the She's Delivery screenplay his father had written into the 1997 film She's So Lovely, which starred Sean Penn. as John Cassavetes had wanted. Alexandra Cassavetes directed the documentary Z Channel, A Magnificent Obsession in 2004, and in 2006 served as second unit director on her brother Nick's film, Alpha Dog. Cassavetes' younger daughter Zoe wrote and directed the 2007 film Broken English, featuring Rollins and Parker Posey. The New Yorker wrote that Cassavetes may be the most influential American director of the last half-century, this in announcing that all the films he directed, plus others he acted in, were being screened in a retrospective tribute at the Brooklyn Academy of Music throughout July 2013. AllMovie called Cassavetes an iconoclastic maverick. The Independent Spirit Awards named one of their categories after Cassavetes, the Independent Spirit John Cassavetes Award. A one-person show about John Cassavetes titled Independent premiered at Essential Theatre in Atlanta in August 2017. The play was written by John D. Babcock II and starred actor Dan Triandaflow as Cassavetes. The song What's Your Take on Cassavetes? By the band Le Tigre is about misogynistic themes within John Cassavetes films and whether they can still be praised after those themes are identified. The song Cassavetes by the band Fugazi parallels John Cassavetes' independence from the film industry with the band's own independence from the record industry. In concert, singer Guy Picciotto introduced it as a song about making your own road. Brace yourselves for the next chapter, where we'll be dissecting filmography. Faces 1968 poster retouch Face 1968 A Woman Under the Influence 1974 poster retouch A Woman Under the Influence 1974 The Killing of a Chinese Bookie starring Ben Gazzara 1976 poster style of Killing of a Chinese Bookie 1976 Opening Night 1977 poster Opening Night 1977. As director, Ear title distributor 1959 Shadows British Lion Films 1961 Too Late Blues Paramount Pictures 1963 A Child Is Waiting United Artists 1968 Faces Continental Distributing 1970 Husbands Columbia Pictures 1971 Minnie and Moskowitz Universal Pictures 1974 A Woman Under the Influence Faces Distribution 1976 The Killing of a Chinese Bookie 1977 Opening Night 1980 Gloria Columbia Pictures 1984 Love Streams Canon Films 1986 Big Trouble Columbia Pictures. As we progress through this video, let's now turn our gaze towards awards and nominations. As a filmmaker, he was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay for Faces 1968 and the Academy Award for Best Director for A Woman Under the Influence 1974. The Independent Spirit Awards named the John Cassavetes Award in his honor. Your feedback helps me improve, so please take a moment to leave a comment or review.